George Eaton's incisive piece for the New Statesman delves into the political fallout of James Cleverly's elimination from the Conservative leadership race, leaving Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick to contest the final. And Eaton captures the mood within the Labour ranks, elation mixed with calculated confidence, but I think it's miscalculated confidence, because actually to be a successful government, you need to have a successful and a confident opposition to hold you to account. Of course, during the last few weeks, while the Conservatives have been self-indulgently looking for a new leader, oddly, what we started off with was an assumption that it's going to be Jenrick or Badenoch, and we've gone through the whole process of the newspaper saying, "Oh, it's this person, oh, it's that person," and then we're back to Jenrick and Badenoch, exactly what we started with. And the party is lurching to the right. If you listen to Michael Gove, which I've done, and the Spectator podcast, I wouldn't pick up the New Statesman unless I was picking up the Spectator at the same time. Gove, who of course was a master of the black arts of tactical voting and spin, I suppose is regretting that he's not actually there to influence some of the Conservative MPs who have clearly made a mess of it. He points out Cleverly went up by 18 points on Tuesday and then suddenly was out. And he said that is tactical voting because the Conservative MPs didn't want Badenoch in the final two. And what has happened is she's ended up with the most votes in the Conservative Party, in the Conservative Parliamentary Party. Only by one, but nevertheless it is the most. And her team can claim that, and it will be something that she can push in the hustings over the next couple of weeks before that final election by the broader membership, the more limited membership. But the chances of her winning are almost certain now. Jenrick had a very poor time at the Conservative Party conference. Badenoch had a much better time. Cleverly had the best time. Cleverly has been knocked out because of the stupidity of the Conservative Party members. As I say, Gove only has two abilities, really. One of them we probably shouldn't mention, and the other one is his ability to manipulate. And he was particularly good at that behind-the-scenes manipulation. So much so he was greatly feared and greatly reviled. But for Labour, Cleverly represented, says Eaton, George Eaton, a real threat, as his brand of moderation and ability to appeal to a broader electorate could have revitalised the Conservative Party's image. Labour MPs, Eaton notes, are delighted at this gift, allowing them to sidestep a candidate who was most likely to detoxify the Conservative Party. And now the Conservative Party is almost certain committing itself to at least 2 terms out of office, perhaps more, and perhaps in the end a union with the Reform Party and Nigel Farage. Certainly that won't happen immediately, and I think Farage's hopes of getting into the office of number 10 by 2028-29 are slight, but I think the key to number 10 is within his grasp, and that is an horrific thought. Cleverly's focus on a relatable, optimistic Conservative vision seemed a strategy for rebuilding the party's lost appeal, and polling indicated that he was the public's favourite for Prime Minister, boasting more support than either Badenoch or Jenrick. But instead of pivoting towards the centre after defeat, the Conservative MPs have, by some sort of miscalculation, gone for a more radical approach, and Badenoch and Jenrick are vying for the party's right-wing base, each bringing their own brand of populist fervour to the table. So that central, that centre-right voting bloc is now up for grabs, either by the Lib Dems, or oddly by reform, or by a reinvigorated Conservative Party. But I don't think that reinvigorated Conservative Party is likely to attract people like me. I often find I found anyway on many an occasion that I'm to the left of Labour on some issues, not because I have moved my attitude, but because the country has moved, the parties have moved, and certainly when it came to educational policies, I've often found myself to the left of Jeremy Corbyn. I think university education should be smaller and should be free, and we should be investing in the next generation, just as previous generations did, and we should try to remove this utilitarian bias, which works very well in a sort of polytechnic understanding of education. A university understanding of education is about freeing the mind to process stuff, so that once you've learned how to process this, you can learn how to process that. It's about methodology rather than content. And it doesn't. I think of education as being a great room, great chamber. You enter it by one door. That door may be English, maybe theology, maybe philosophy, maybe history. Doesn't matter. But the techniques you learn, you can reapply, or mathematics, which is probably the best. And we've got over obsessed with the idea that there are STEM subjects which are useful, and then there are Mickey Mouse degrees. A Mickey Mouse degree studied with rigor is still a valuable discipline, I think. So Eaton paints Badenoch as Labour's bigger concern. She's perceptive about the importance of visibility and has a knack of zeroing in on contentious cultural issues. With her reputation as a cultural warrior, she's set to challenge Labour on terrain that they might find uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Jenrick leans into populism, prioritising immigration and aligning himself with more traditional Conservative values. I don't think either of them need to worry about the channel crossings, because that will be an issue that will be sorted out in the next 10 years. The choice between the two reflects a party perhaps more intent on satisfying its base than on broader electoral appeal. A trend Eaton astutely observes could ultimately hinder Conservative hopes of regaining power, of ever regaining power. I think the Conservative Party, in its decision yesterday, has consigned itself to the wilderness, certainly for 10 years, possibly forever. This is the beginning of the end of conservatism, and that's a great shame. And it also means that the Labour Party will find its opposition in its own ranks, as it has done in the last few weeks. Yet Eaton warns Labour against premature celebration. I would as well. The populist right still poses a significant threat, and the party would do well to remember how unpredictably political winds have blown in recent years. In sum, Eaton provides a compelling analysis of the Conservative leadership landscape, cautioning that in politics, as history shows, victory is never assured until the final whistle is blown. And while I think the Conservative Party, with its intensely right-leaning redefinition, doesn't deserve to be elected into government again, history has shown us that such things have happened, and that they are to be feared. I fear the direction that the Conservative Party is going.